Hi everyone, I know I haven't posted in a while. That's because I haven't filmed in a while. I think it's been about a month since I filmed a video, and it took us so long to get set up just now because apparently we had slightly moved some of the furniture in the apartment just to the point where it made it so that I couldn't put stuff exactly where I was used to. Anyway, I think we got it figured out, and I'm just going to start back in with a nice, easy video. I'm going to do a book haul today. I've bought books a few different times since the last time I did a book haul. Honestly, I can't even remember exactly when that was because I don't do them that often, but it's a nice kind of video to do without really having to plan anything out, and I do have a couple really cool things, one thing in particular that I want to show you guys, so we'll just go through some of the stuff I've bought in the last few months, and it'll be a way for me to get back into it, and yeah. So because I have a lot of stuff today, the way I'm going to organize this book haul is I'm going to start out by showing some of the books that I bought recently that I have read in the past, which I'll be able to talk a little bit more about what those are actually about. I actually like to buy things that I've read before. A lot of times I'll wait to buy a book until I know that I really like it. There are also books in here that I maybe read when I was a teenager or have a copy of at my childhood home, which is very far away from where I live right now, so I just picked up another copy at the used bookstore when I felt like it. And then I have a bunch of books that I don't know that much about or haven't read that I just bought more on a whim, so then I'll go ahead and show you those and probably make really ignorant comments about what I think they're going to be about. And then at the very end I have something really special to show you guys that I'm very excited about. If you looked at the description or the title of this video, you probably know what it is, but I'm just going to save it for the end. So first off, I have Among Others by Jo Walton. This is a book I read a couple of times in college. I think I had it on Kindle back then. It's kind of an interesting cover here. This isn't the original cover. It's been printed as Tor Essentials. I don't really know what this line of books might be, but Jo Walton is an author that overall I really respect, although I haven't loved everything by her that I've read. But this book, apparently, I didn't remember this, but it won both the Hugo and the Nebula Awards. And this is a very meta kind of book. It's the story of a Welsh girl. It's set in the 1970s, late 1970s, I think, in England. And she has just lost her twin sister and become disabled in a tragic accident or magical incident. It's kind of unclear which. So she's lived her whole life with her mother, who is a witch, and she gets taken in by her father and his family, who she doesn't really have a previous relationship with, and then gets sent to this boarding school, which is pretty much completely awful. And she basically the whole curriculum of the school is heavily emphasized around playing sports in a very British boarding school kind of way, and because she has become disabled in this accident, she really can't participate, so she basically spends her entire time at school reading in the library, and really she was already a fan of science fiction and fantasy, but it's basically this story with some magical realism that is about a teenage girl discovering science fiction and fantasy, and especially the science fiction and fantasy that would have been available up through the late 70s, and discovering the sort of fan community as well and making friends through that. So it's kind of an interesting combination of things. I don't always like books that are about reading or people who are readers. It's, you know, usually you read to experience other things and not just to read books about people that read. But in this case, it's a very powerful book. It's not very long, as you can see, but it's kind of this just exploration of the genre and what it meant to one fictional character. I have the feeling that a lot of the author's own literary, if not preferences, then at least experiences are reflected in this book. Jo Walton does write a lot of book reviews and things like that. So I think this is a really interesting book. I'm kind of looking forward to reading it again since it's been probably almost 10 years, and I'm curious if I've read more of the books that are mentioned in here. I hadn't read a lot of them when I read this book because a lot of it is older stuff, and a lot of it might be stuff that I don't know if how much I would like it today versus, you know, how it might have read when it was published in the 60s or 70s. But anyway, I think it would be an interesting one to reread, and I remember really liking it, so that's why I bought it. Next, I bought Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. This is an interesting book because it kind of reads like fantasy mystery, but there are no actual supernatural elements in this book. It just still kind of feels like genre fiction. It's also quite short. It's a really lovely, sweet book. I almost don't really know how to describe it, but it's about basically everything Robin Sloan writes, because he has another book called Sourdough. It's all about sort of tech tech field people in the Bay Area getting drawn into other mysterious lives, basically. So in this, unemployed guy gets a job at this mysterious bookstore that turns out to be a front for a secret society and gets drawn into this whole kind of mystery. It's a very enjoyable book. I liked it a lot. My husband also enjoyed it. I think he listened to it on audiobook. So I had read it from the library. I think it was actually a book, because it's quite short. I think I read it on a flight and then I read it again immediately afterwards, which I only do with books that I absolutely love. But also this one was just so short and nice that I just wanted to sort of stay in it and experience it again. So now we have a copy. Next, I found online a copy of Finder by Suzanne Palmer. I've talked about this series quite a few times for some reason on this channel, because it's not the most mind-blowing, groundbreaking thing ever, but I just think this is a really fun, enjoyable series with a likable protagonist, kind of science fiction. I don't know that I'd call it space opera, but it's kind of a bit action, adventure, detective story, something along those lines, about Fergus Ferguson, who's a finder. He's basically kind of an intergalactic repo man, but he's a very likable character. He tends to get into these sort of scrapes and adventures. But yeah, this is a book that when I got it from the library, I was expecting nothing from it. I really quite enjoyed it. I really quite enjoyed the second one. I'm looking forward to continuing the series, but again, it's something that I didn't own, and I've been enjoying the series, so now we have a copy of the first one, and maybe my husband will read it. This is a pretty well-known one, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I still don't know if it should be Norrell or Norrell, but I've always said Norrell in my head, by Susanna Clarke. This is a book that came out when I was probably in my mid-teens, and I read it then. I think it's something that's not for everybody, although it was very popular at the time, and I think people still read it. It's a, I guess I'd call it an alternate history with magic, but written in a very pseudo-literary historical way. There's a ton of footnotes. It does have kind of this dry historical style to it. I personally loved it. This is exactly the kind of thing, I mean, I can't really speak for my taste as a teenager. There are things I definitely liked 15 years ago that I don't think I would like anymore, but I have the feeling I would still really enjoy this if I read it now. The cover is showing the BBC miniseries they did of it, which I think I watched maybe some of. I don't know how far I got in it. I also know Susanna Clarke just came out with a new novel, her first one since this book, called Piranesi, which I'm meaning to read. I haven't read it yet, but I saw this at the bookstore, and I haven't owned a copy since I was a kid, and I don't know when I would get to rereading this, but I kind of would like to at some point, because I think I'll probably still really enjoy it. It's still the kind of thing I'd be into. So yeah, Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Connie Willis is another author that is very well respected, and I don't see getting mentioned very much at all on YouTube from what I've seen. I think it's just because she's been around for a long time. I think she's pretty old now, and I don't know how much she's even writing anymore, but this is from her most well-known series, probably. It doesn't even have a name. It's the series about time-traveling historians from Oxford. And this is the first part in what's kind of a two-part novel that was published as two books, but it really is one. So this one is called Blackout. The second one is called All Clear. This duology is one of the darker things in this series, although it has her typical sort of elements of humor as well. A lot of her books really capture sort of human absurdity, especially when it comes to like bureaucracy and rules and things like that. But there's just a lot of things that are also sort of things that just barely don't work out, near misses, just weird coincidences, things like that. And some of that has to do with the space-time continuum, but some of it is just sort of her writing style. I will admit, I really enjoy it. Sometimes it makes me slightly anxious because she always captures sort of that feeling where you're always trying to call someone and they just never answer, like that kind of, I don't know, that's what reading her books feel like sometimes in terms of how the plot works. But this is set during World War II in England, so basically during the Blitz. And it's about historians that have gone back in time. Some of them kind of end up getting stuck back in time at this very not so good time to be stuck in. But there are a lot of, it's probably one of her more complex books because there's a lot of different timelines going on at once and things like that. But this probably is not the place to start with Connie Willis. I would recommend probably starting with To Say Nothing of the Dog, or if you want something a little more serious, Doomsday Book. Or, you know, she has a bunch of other standalone novels that are not part of this series that are also great. but I'm happy to have a copy of this. I have a copy of some of her other works, and I know I'll probably reread this eventually. All right, so those were already all the books that I bought that I've read before. So now I have a whole stack of books over here that I have never read, and I'll probably go through those a lot more quickly because I won't really be able to talk about what they're about. So first I have House of Names by Colm Toibin. I honestly can't remember why I bought this. I've read one book by him. It was really good. It was called Brooklyn, I think, and it was a story about a girl who's an Irish immigrant in Brooklyn in the, I think, early 20th century, I think. And I don't, oh yeah, it says on here he wrote Brooklyn, so I guess I got the title right. That's good. So from what I can see, this is the story of, I guess, the House of Atreus. So that's this King Agamemnon and his family. Looks pretty short, actually. It says that it contains perspectives from Clytemnestra, that's Agamemnon's wife, the one who ended up killing him, and Orestes and Electra, who are his kids. So these are, stories from Greek mythology, so I guess this is kind of a retelling. This is the kind of thing I like. I hope it'll be good. It's interesting when a sort of very literary author takes on something like this. We'll see what it's like. This is from Unseen Fire by Cass Morris. I don't think I've ever heard of this author. This is book 1 of the Avon cycle, and I think it seems like sort of a fantasy based on Rome, which also seemed pretty interesting to me. I actually kind of am into this cover, but really no idea. I assume I read the description when I bought it, and now I can't remember. It just says, the dictator is dead, long live the republic. I don't think I'm going to read the rest of this out loud, but there's a republic, there are senators. This basically sounds like Rome. I see some stuff about mages, politics, and maybe some romance. We'll see. So we'll see, but I think this looks kind of cool. Now we have The Buried Giant by Kazuo Ishiguro, who is also one of my favorite authors. His most well-known book now probably is Never Let Me Go, because there was a recent movie of it, which I haven't seen. I don't think that's his best book by any means. It's kind of in a weird place because it's technically science fiction, but really it isn't any more than any of his other books are science fiction. But I think some people that actually like science fiction didn't really like that book very much. My favorite book by him is An Artist of the Floating World, but his best known book is, other than Never Let Me Go, is probably The Remains of the Day. There was a pretty famous movie of that I also haven't seen. I think I was pretty little when that came out, or it was before I was born. I'm not sure. But I think that book also won maybe the Pulitzer Prize or something like that. So sort of very mainstream literary fiction. This is set in post-Arthurian Britain. The wars that once raged between the Saxons and the Britons have finally ceased, and it's about an elderly British couple who are setting off to visit their son, and they're joined on their journey by a Saxon warrior, his orphan charge, and an illustrious knight. Anyway, I think this is going to be kind of weird from what I remember, but I have no idea what to expect from this at all. But I haven't read anything new by him in a very long time, and I've been meaning to read this. I think I got it out of the library on ebook twice and actually ended up just not getting to it, so I hope I get to this soon-ish. I still have, most of my Cosmere reread to go, but we won't talk about that. I'm filming a vlog about that right now. So now we've gotten to the part of the book haul where I keep buying YA fantasy that I think is going to seem cool, and then I end up hating it, because that just seems to be my MO with YA these days. I really am not a YA reader. I think I just don't like the genre very much, to be completely honest. I'm not saying that I don't think it's good or that people shouldn't read it. I just keep ending up not enjoying YA, and I think either right now or forever, I'm just not a reader that is really enjoying the conventions of the genre, such as they are. But I do have 2 YA books. Both actually either, I'm not sure if both authors are Nigerian, but they both have sort of this one is actually set in Nigeria, and this one is what we would call Nigerian inspired. I've really come to hate the term like such and such inspired, because we don't use it for Western or European fantasy, but I don't really have a better term at the moment. So this is Beasts Made of Night by Tochi Onyebuchi, who I've never read anything by, but obviously I thought it seemed cool when I bought it. So we'll give that a try. And then I also have Akata Warrior, which is the sequel to Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. I have read her adult fiction as well and really liked it, and this is actually the second book in a series. I did read and enjoy the first one a few years ago, so maybe I'll break my YA curse. I think I did have a couple YA books that I read in September that I liked. I still haven't filmed my September wrap-up either, and it's, you know, the first week in November, so I should really do that. But overall, I've really been striking out with YA, but this is kind of a cool shiny cover as well. And I thought Akata Witch was a really nice book from what I remember. It's been a few years. So anyway, picked this up. This next one, The Unspoken Name, I'm pretty sure I bought this because I saw it recommended in an interview with Tamsin Muir, who's the author of Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth, and she listed this as one of her favorite things that she had read recently, so I thought I would give that a shot. Again, I bought this a while ago, and now I can't remember what it's about, but it has quotes on the back from a bunch of authors I like, and it says, "It's an epic journey of an orc priestess sentenced to die, who escapes her fate only to become an assassin for the sorcerer who rescued her," which sounds pretty cool. I don't think I'd even ever read a book from the point of view of an orc, so that's cool. Here's a very rare exception to my genre preferences, The State of Wonder by Anne Patchett. Again, it's a very sort of mainstream literary fiction author, I guess I would describe her as. I've overall liked most of what I've read by her. Ironically, the one thing I really didn't enjoy that much was probably her most famous book, Bel Canto, because it's about music and that just tends to rub me the wrong way. I've read something by her recently, like her most recent book that I think I didn't like all that much, but it was fine. I don't think I've ever really disliked an Anne Patchett book. And I have to prove that I read something other than fantasy sometimes, right? So this is State of Wonder by Anne Patchett. The last thing I have before our grand finale is Hero Born by Jin Yong, which is the pen name of the author. So this is a book translated from Chinese. The author is from Hong Kong. Apparently this is a very, very well-known series. This is the first book. It's sort of an epic kung fu family saga. I saw some mixed things about the translation, so I really hesitated before picking this up because I thought the description of the series sounded really cool, but then I saw a lot of complaints about how it was translated. On the other hand, this is the first and only translation, so if I want to try reading it, this is really the only shot, so I can wait until somebody does another translation someday maybe, or I can just try it. The main thing I think a lot of people complained about was actually inconsistencies in translating the names, where some of them got sort of turned into English names and others were kept as Chinese names, which I agree, that seems kind of weird. It seems like it's going to be really cool. I'm excited to try it, and hopefully the translation won't be, you know, too much of an impediment. But I think everything that has been translated into another language, a lot of times the first translations just aren't that good, and people enjoyed them anyway, so we'll see. So now I have something really special to show you guys. This is something that I did not buy myself. It was a birthday present from our friend Daniel. It was a total surprise, and it is the leather-bound edition of Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This is probably one of the nicest presents I've ever gotten, honestly, and it came on a day where I was having not a very good day, so that just made it even better. I think I probably need to maybe put in some pictures of this or something, so I don't know how easy it will be to show on camera, but it's so beautiful. It's just, the leather just feels really nice. You can see the symbol on the front. Here's the spine. Hopefully that shows up. And it has this beautiful, the silver edges, and then you can see I haven't even broken, you know, this yet because I'm too scared, but very carefully. There's a lot of beautiful art inside. There's sort of reprints of different covers from different places in the opening pages. Hopefully some of this is showing up. And then it is signed. Let's see, it always takes me a while to find the place where it's signed. Oh yeah, here we go. So there's the signature. So I think Daniel saw in my videos, I mentioned how much I wanted a Brandon Sanderson leatherbound, and then said I was never going to be able to justify spending that money on something that was just going to stay on the shelf. But I am so happy that I have one. So this is a really amazing present. I'm so excited. I'm still, like you can see, I'm afraid to even like open it all the way because I don't want to mess up anything, but it's really beautiful. I also, not to do with the edition, but the dedication in Elantris, I really love. It's since as his first book, dedicated to my mother, who wanted a doctor, ended up with a writer, but loved him enough not to complain very much. So I think that's really sweet. I don't even know what to do with myself because this is just so pretty. I'm trying to think what else I can show with this. I showed you the art and the signature. There's sort of the printing is both, you can see the paper quality is really beautiful. The title at the top and the chapter heads, there's blue printing as well as the black text. It's a really beautiful book. You can see how much care they put into something like this. So that's really the highlight of my book haul. I wanted to save it to the end to show, and I think this was really why I wanted to do a book haul in the first place, because you can see there's like months of stuff here that I bought and haven't read yet, that I've just been acquiring. So thanks so much for watching this super long book haul, guys. I hope you guys are excited to see this, if not as excited as I was to receive it, because that would be kind of weird. It's been a few weeks, I'm still really excited to have this, and I wanted to make a video to show it, and all the other stuff that I've just acquired over the last few months and didn't get around to making a video about. So I'll be back soon. I still have a couple of review videos that I filmed like at the end of September and haven't edited and posted yet, and there's a lot of stuff I want to film, so I should have more time coming up now to film and to do stuff. I've really missed making videos. I just got a little bit stressed out and was just sort of focusing on one thing, which was working, and stopped doing all the things I actually enjoy, which is, I don't recommend it. Don't do that. So I hope you all are having a good November so far, and it's good to be back.